Well, how do we put an end to what has been going on? Well, to shed some light on this one, we're joined by Mukhtar Dania, who is a security consultant, Africa and Middle East public policy analyst. Morning, and thank you for joining us today. Well, this certainly raises a lot of concern for so many people, and having looked at different reports, you think we're making headway?
Good morning.
Do you think we're making headway in our approach to curbing this?
I think we are making headway. I think this administration is more focused on dealing with criminality and things of that nature. However, I think there is more to be done. One of the biggest challenges the security services in Nigeria face is motivation, specifically financial motivation. It's very difficult for people to put their lives on the line when they feel that their welfare isn't being properly taken care of, and if something happens to them in the line of duty, their families will lose out completely.
Is this something you think or you know for a fact about the financial motivation?
About the welfare?
Yeah.
The financial aid, I mean, even if you look at the budget, you'll see it. If you talk to police officers, even on the street, they'll tell you that they are not happy with where they are. My grandfather was a policeman. My uncle was a policeman. They were both officers in the Nigeria police force. Even back then, their standard of living was much higher than it is of people of similar rank today. So I believe so, even from personal family experience.
When you talk about beliefs now, let's go into how you started by saying that this administration is on course. What are those indices you have seen that has made you say that?
I think one of the things is the fact that the Nigeria Police Force has been rolled under the Interior Ministry is a very positive step because this way at least internal security outside of the military is all under one place now. And I think the person in charge, General Dambazao, seems to be focused on reorienting the internal security services in service of the nation.
But for some, they will argue
that's
that
definitely a step in the right direction.
In all of those pluses, doesn't it worry you that we are seeing some form of new trend, so to speak, of kidnapping, which involves traditional rulers?
It does worry me, but kidnapping is the effect. What we have to look at is the cause. When you have young men who are full of the desires young men have, which is money to spend on girlfriends, living life, and so on and so forth, and they have no opportunities to put their energy into productive uses, unfortunately, they usually resort to things which are not necessarily legal. A lot of them, unfortunately, resort to either terrorism or insurgency in the northeast, and in the southwest, kidnapping seems to be, and armed robbery seems to be what they do. It's unfortunate, but till they are provided with opportunities to work and make money legitimately, it's very difficult to see this trend abating.
But they must be deterred, and that's why you have the agencies and the Internal Affairs Ministry.
Correct. That is absolutely right.
So are they doing what they should be doing?
They are on track. We aren't there yet from what I see, but we are definitely on track. Even the fact that the police is now going to be involved in operations in the northeast more than ever before is a step in the right direction. All the training courses officers of the Nigeria Police Force are being sent on internationally is also a step in the right direction. So I am personally optimistic. As I said, I don't think we're going to achieve perfection just yet, but we're moving in the right direction.
What do you think we're not doing correctly? Because now we have to look at that institution, the traditional institution, which is being targeted by kidnappers.
Right. Again, I think in terms of the cause, we need to create an opportunity for young people to be gainfully employed. Not necessarily through the government, but preferably through private enterprise. A lot of studies have shown that young people who are invested in their communities via commerce or other enterprise are less likely to engage in crime. From the police end of things, again, I think the welfare of our police officers needs to be looked into. A policeman who knows that he is well remunerated, and if something happens to him, his family will be taken care of, is probably going to be more proactive in community policing than one who isn't.
Beyond the remuneration, which you spoke about, there's some basic operational techniques that people expect to see them bring to bear. Especially now we're talking about terrorism, kidnapping on the streets. They don't see that happening. Does that also have to do with remuneration and motivation?
Correct. Right. Well, not necessarily, but the challenge also with the Nigeria police force is that not majority, but a large number are involved in duties that have nothing to do with policing, including providing security to very important people and things along those lines. I think one of the things that needs to be done is more community policing, which is have police officers embedded in communities where there is a probability of high crime. This way, the community and the police officers have synergy and things are less likely to happen. I've seen that happen in places like New York, places like Baltimore, where there were, and even London in the United Kingdom, where when crime spiked and policemen were brought in to be sort of embedded in the community, things changed. So I think we need to do that. Instead of having policemen providing protection to VIPs, they might need to focus on actual policing, and that includes preventing crime, not just solving crime.
Well, you did speak about providing jobs for these people. Some people will say that's no justification for doing what they're doing.
Yes, it's not justification. There is no justification for crime ever. But unfortunately, a person who decides to be a criminal is going to be a criminal. It's like a person who decides to fish is going to look for a place to find fish, maybe in the stream, maybe in the river, or wherever. But we can't stop all crime in the nation, but we can create an environment that is less conducive to crime. Again, a person who is gainfully employed doing business is less likely to become a kidnapper than one who has absolutely nothing to do, nothing productive to do with his time.
So how easy, assuming these jobs are provided and people are going to take them up, how easy do you think it will be to win the kidnappers from their jobs to regular jobs?
It's not going to be easy. It's going to take some time to rehabilitate them. But like we saw in the Niger Delta with the amnesty, a lot of the militants who picked up arms when they were rehabilitated, even though they weren't necessarily all gainfully trained for productive labor, but at least they were rehabilitated, they were given incentives to engage in lawful conduct. So it has to be the same thing. We need to create, for lack of a better term, a Marshall Plan in places where we know there is kidnapping, where the youth get involved in labor, in productive labor. It might take time. I don't know if it's a month, a year, or years, depending on how decadent a person's mind is. But it'll get done eventually. There are lots of case studies of places which were full of crime, where crime went down, where such initiatives took place.
Should we be offering amnesty as well to kidnappers, assuming this job is available?
Personally, I wouldn't say I am a proponent of amnesty per se, but I think we should have a sort of initiative for them, a program for them, where if they get involved in skill acquisition programs and what have you, if they are suspected of being kidnappers or other sorts of criminals, as long as they don't get in trouble for a certain period of time, the government will overlook whatever it is that they were doing.
Okay, that's on the softer side.
So a conditional amnesty, for lack of a better term.
In some states, they've had the capital punishment in their laws now for kidnappers. Do you think that helps?
Yes and no. It helps. See, the thing about laws is that criminals are not necessarily subject to the laws. That's why they're outlaws. They do what they want to do irrespective of the consequences. So I don't know if it has stopped anyone, because kidnapping is on the rise, truly and really.
Well, if you were to pick one thing, maybe two, that we need to focus on to see how we could have some sort of immediate effect or result with the spate of kidnapping, what will they be?
I would say community policing is very, very important. Let's put policemen back on the beat where they actually prevent crime. And number two, let's job creation initiatives for people in high-risk areas, where they'll actually be able to plug into some sort of skill acquisition program. This way they won't engage in crime.
But what kind of feedback did you get from maybe police officers who you interacted with in terms of what they require of the citizenry to contribute to ensure that we reduce crime?
Well, the police, the challenges with the Nigerian police force are many. Again, as one whose grandfather was a police officer and one whose uncle was a police officer, I've seen the Nigerian police force at least from the 80s to now. I think a lot of Nigerians have lost faith in the Nigeria police force because the NPF does a lot of things which are not necessarily confidence-inducing. For example, unfortunately, some police officers still physically abuse citizens. Some police officers still resort to confessions by any means, which is they'll get a person and beat a confession out of him, things like that. Those things, again, are not confidence-inducing. So one of the things the police force has to understand is that they are here to serve the citizenry of Nigeria. Once people see that the police are on their side, that the police is your friend, as it is and it's supposed to be, I think more people will be induced, for lack of a better term, to cooperate proactively with the police force. But again, that requires a lot of reorientation, a lot of psychological reorientation in men and women in uniform, for our men and women in uniform.
All right, Mukhtar Daniel, thank you for talking to us today.